Now we're ready to build the pipeline. So looking back at our architecture diagram, the first step is the fetch step here. So that's where we fetch, 1,000 or so news articles from curated sources. Now, there are a bunch of news providers that might work for this. The one that I'm using and that I found works really, really well is newsapi.ai. I found it to be easy to use, reliable, fast, affordable. They have a very nice SDK. So that's what I'm using for the course. But the pipeline should work just fine with other providers. You might need to adapt some instructions to the different field names. One of the things I like about newsapi.ai is that they have a really nice free plan. So you can see the details here. The way it works is that when you sign up, you get a one-time allocation of 2,000 tokens, is what they call it. That's how they measure searches, basically, using the API. So these will get used up eventually, but I found that that's more than enough to build the product and even run it for a month or two. Eventually, you're going to have to sign up for a paid plan, but I really like this very solid free plan. Unlike some other services that I've looked at, it's not limited in any other ways. So some of them have a delay where you don't get the most recent news, or they don't include the full article contents in the API or things like that. That's not the case here. They actually give you everything. So we can get started with the free plan. I will show one more thing. So by default, if later on you decide you want to productionize it or you build a different app with this new service, the cheapest plan that they list here costs $90 a month. That's still pretty reasonable actually for what they provide, but this gives you up to 5,000 searches, 500,000 articles. It's a lot. It's actually way more than you need for a pipeline like the one that we're building. However, I reached out to them and it turns out that they actually have a cheaper plan that's not directly advertised on the website. And I actually put a link into the README. So if you scroll down here under newsapi.ai API key, that's a mouthful, you'll see this link here. This is actually a affiliate link, full disclosure. So if you sign up for this, you should get another 10% off on top of this discounted plan, and I'll get a small cut as well. And then if we click on that, you see here that they offer a 2,000 token plan. So that's essentially the same as the free plan that they give you initially, 2,000 tokens. So that's way more than you need in 1 month with an application like this. And that costs $40 a month. So that's actually pretty reasonable. That's the one that I signed up for, and it works great. All right, so after you sign up or sign back in, you should see a page like this. From here, we're going to click on the documentation page to see our API key. So here is the API documentation, which is pretty thorough. The main thing we're looking for is here in the middle, your API key. I have obviously edited this out here, so you don't see my API key, but this is where your API key would show up. So you can actually take this and copy and paste it into the .env file that we created earlier. So I'll let you go ahead and do that. So then you can browse around here. We're just going to be using one endpoint. So if you click on articles here on the left, you'll see that there's get articles for topic page. That's the one that we're going to be using for this pipeline. And I'll explain what a topic page is. So if we click on this here, a topic page is basically a curated list of news sources to which you can apply weights, and you can add other parameters as well. So all of that gets saved under one topic page ID. So you can then pass that ID in your API calls, and it'll automatically fetch from the curated list of sources. So you don't have to manually pass all of that programmatically in the code. So in order to set that up, you'll see this link here to the media monitoring page. So we'll open this. One thing to point out, here you see event registry. Essentially, newsapi.ai and event registry are the same company. One is sort of the underlying platform, and the other one is the API product that they sell. But they're actually the same company, and the same login will get you into both of those. So here I have logged back in. It's actually the same page we saw before, but the domain has changed to eventregistry.org. So we're going to have to click through this again. All right. So now we have the monitoring page up. And what you want to do is click on Add New to create a new monitoring page. Here you can type in the name of your page. You can call this whatever. Maybe call it Idea Pipeline or whatever you like. And probably keep it private, accessible only to you. And then click on Create. I'm going to just click on the one that I already have. I called it Business Ideas. I'm going to include a screenshot of my settings in the course materials as well, so you can download it in case you want to replicate what I'm using. But chances are that you can maybe curate your own list of news sources and maybe get even better results. This works okay for me. Honestly, I haven't spent a ton of time playing with the different weights and so on. But what I have here, I didn't specify any interests or category. In terms of filters, I set it to fetch content that's at most 1 day old. I'm limiting this to English only, but of course, you can totally change this to include other languages as well. I'm not doing any sentiment filtering. I think I want to get both positive and negative sentiment articles. So the main thing I have is a list of categories and a list of news sources. So under categories, I added business, technology, environment, science, and health. So for example, I do not have things like politics in here or entertainment, just because I think those categories usually aren't relevant for my purposes of finding startup ideas. But there's no reason not to experiment yourself. I have all of these at medium weight. And then for news sources, I have a larger list here. So I have both prominent news sources like the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times and Financial Times news and things like that. But I also have things like TechCrunch, VentureBeat, Fast Company. I have the MIT Technology Review, Adweek. I have Hacker News in here, right? news.ycombinator.com. So it's a pretty wide spectrum. And I played a little bit with different weights. So for example, I'm weighing things like Fast Company and Entrepreneur pretty highly. And I'm weighing things like the New York Times or CNBC, sort of more general news sources, less highly. But again, there's probably a lot of different ways you can set this up. If you scroll down below, this is kind of a nice feature. So after you tweak some of these settings, you can click on Load Content for Current Topic page, and it'll actually show you what articles match this particular query. So then the most important thing we need here after we've created this page is to get the ID. And you can actually see this up here in the UI. So this thing under the URI parameter, right? We're going to take this, copy that, and then you're going to paste that into the .env file. So to show this again, here's the .env file. You don't see my API keys in here, but this is where you would put the News API key and the News API topic URI is what they call it. Gemini API key will fill in later. That's not needed for this first pipeline step. And just to show one more thing here on this website, so if you go back to the homepage, you can click on Sandbox page here. This opens the documentation sandbox. And then now we can click on articles again in the sidebar and get articles for topic page. And then here you can actually paste in the URI for your topic page. And then after you paste it in, you can change some of these parameters here if you want. I'm just going to leave the default and click on execute search. And then we see both the request body and the actual JSON response. So this is kind of a nice way of seeing what this API will return. So we'll see that it returns some metadata about the topic page itself, so the URI and some other fields. But most importantly, it returns a list of articles that has results here. We see there's a total of 1,690 results. So this is going to be page 1. And there are 17 pages, each containing 100 articles. So we'll click on this. And then for each article, we have a URI, language, we have some dates, we have the URL. So this is the original URL of the article. In this case, it's from scientificamerican.com. And we have an article body, we have the article source, authors. So there's a bunch of data in here. So this is helpful if you want to take a look at what this API returns.